I have two. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for your study, Elena. Very interesting. I have two questions, and they are to the first part of the presentation, part one. And the first is, could you repeat or say what the mark of the beast is that the institution receives? I think you're talking about the United States, and you wrote or you had a line where you said that the institution receives the mark of the beast.
Mm-hmm. Um, um, yeah. So the Sunday law, it's not the Sunday law for the institution because it's the at this line, it's the close of probation. So they receive the mark of the beast after they failed the test. And in my opinion, when I define what the institution is, I would say it's the three branches of government. I think we could also say it's the two parties and all the democratic processes like the election, the certification, and the electoral college, and all of this. So um, I think they failed by um, letting a dictator come into power. All of these processes serve the purpose to prevent this. So it begins with the parties that should not um, um, give the possibility to an extremist to rise up. They should throw him out immediately. But he came through all of these gatekeepers, basically. And this, I think, is the test that the democratic institution did not pass. So I think, therefore, they received the mark of the beast because they are not the glorious land anymore with this. They are not um, the land of equality and freedom, of uh, fair and free elections, but they are the Sunday law movement. So they give the Sunday law movement the power to rise, or they placed it. Um, yeah, don't know if it
Okay.
answers your question.
I'm not sure what the mark itself is. I understand the logic that you present now, that they give rise to the extremist, and that did I understand correctly that you say that they enable the Sunday law movement to rise? Okay, because I think the way that I've understood the mark of the beast, at least what helped me was I remember from Terry's presentation, she puts the two columns up and she compares and contrasts the mark of the beast with the mark of God, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Sunday law movement. There is also, she calls it, I think, a Sabbath law movement,
Yeah.
in marks. So that helped me at least in understanding what the mark of the beast then would be. It would be the opposite of the mark of God. And she in that I think it's in France, she lays it out as she focuses a lot on the Sabbath being the mark of equality and the
Mm-hmm.
Sunday law movement being the opposite of it. So the mark of the beast would be the opposite of this mark of equality. So I was just wondering what then would, because I noted that you said that the institution receives the mark of the beast, and I guess I still don't really understand what that mark is then, because it has to
Yeah,
be.
I think Terry is right in her definition. Um, we know the test is equality, and I also think for the institution the test is equality, and it goes hand in hand with democracy, in my opinion. A real democracy lets everyone the freedom to vote freely according to their conscience, and everyone's vote counts equally. So there should not be any law that make it hard for any minority to go voting. So this is for me the basic of a democracy, and this is equality. And what they are doing is not practicing equality because they don't let Black people vote as freely as they let white people vote. And also it impacts women's votes, like the SAFE Act that is now in discussion is directly against women. And this is patriarchy. It's not equality. So I think the definition that Terry gave and this comparison with the Sunday law and the Sabbath movement fits to this. It does not contradict.
Okay, thank you. My other question is regarding the south wind. You said that the south wind blew in 2021, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not fully get what was the South Wind in this time, and you connected it also to the beginning of the fall of the King of the South, so the fall of Russia. But
Mm-hmm.
what was the event? I guess that's what I'm looking for. The South
Yeah,
Wind
I
2020.
think you should ask Arjan what the South Wind in 2021 is. Um, According to my logic, it's when we look at 1989, the south wind is favorable for the ship for the USA. So when the south wind means that the king of the south is falling, and this makes the king of the north being the only superpower, the unilateral superpower. So in 1989, the south wind blew means it was good for the USA. This means it was bad for the king of the south. One was falling, the other one was rising because of this. And I think the same dynamic we have in 2021, where Russia was starting to fall and where the US was starting to rise as the only remaining superpower, as the unilateral superpower.
So
I
it's
think
connected.
that's the south wind.
So it's connected to the invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah. And the credibility of the yeah, as Arjan has explained it.
Okay, thank you. That was my only two questions.
Okay.
So what I understand is that you also in the German, as we had the meeting with the German group, is that you say that your story about Islam actually really connects very well to the story that Aryan tells about the King of the South, and that you're actually saying, hey, where this would be very, you could combine these two messages really well, actually, but it's not fully how could you combine it with the story that Terry tells? Do you have any quick ideas about that?
Yeah, I first to Arjan's study, I really his study brought me to the thought that I should look at my study and the structure of Boston Concord Exeter more. So I didn't this was yeah what he taught me with his study in January. And I think the structure, as he said, with 2021, 22, 24 being Exeter and 25 being the Sunday-Law, is really going hand in hand with the story of the third woe. So it really fits. And regarding Terry's study, I think July is really a very good Exeter. It's like Arjan said, it's a mini version of the Sunday Law because it just looks like the Sunday Law. The RNC, the manosphere, the crowning of the king, all of this, it is really exactly like the Sunday Law, but it's a prediction. It's a foreshadowing to the real Sunday law, which is then in January, which is the crowning by both parties, not only by the Republicans. and the manosphere, which was shown on the inauguration day. Then also on this day he was in power. He really issued all the decrees. He couldn't issue the decrees in July. It was only in January. So I think July really pointed very good to January, but it was an Exeter and not the final waymark.
And maybe, okay, thank you. Maybe one question. We've seen how actually in America already for a long time elections maybe fail to be free and fair because of the gerrymandering already going for years. I don't know when it started, but a really long time ago. And why would you then say that now 2025 is Sunday law? Why not? I mean, is there such a big difference between what happened before and now in January 2025?
Yeah, we know that Parminder explained it in his recent presentations that the Sunday Law movement or the Seventh Kingdom, we can draw different stories. It can begin to rise between 21 and the Sunday Law. It also can begin to rise in 1989, but it also can begin to rise in 1798. So we can extend it more back into the past, depending on the story that we want to tell. So I think the gerrymandering and the voter suppression, it already began many decades ago, like Jim Crow and all of this. And also in the past, we have slavery and the suppression of the black and the voter suppression of the blacks. But in the last years, it really escalated. So the Republicans, they worked so hard in issuing all those new voter suppression laws since 2021, especially. And so it really escalates, and it was a new dynamic, I would say. So depending on the story, we can extend it back. But when we want to look to understand our dispensations, I think we can mark it between 2021 and the Sunday Law.
Is it also, did I understand right that you say it's also really because of January 6, 2021 that you see Trump trying to break democracy actually, but it didn't succeed, and now he succeeded? Is that what
Yes.
did the book end for you, like 2021?
Yes. Also, this is also very important. The first term was very different to the second term now. And also Elder Parminder said that we are now living in a completely different world. This presidency is completely different to all presidencies in the past. It was really a turning point. And he was trying to overturn the election already in 2020, 2021. He didn't succeed. And now it's in full that he overturned it.
Well, Emilis wanted to ask.
It's in connection with this election. Did I understand correctly that you basically said that the 2024 election was stolen from Kamala Harris? You didn't say it definitively, but you hinted at proof that there was widespread voter suppression. Was this the conclusion that you wanted to say?
Yes. My conclusion is that what I thought in my studies from the camp meeting last year in France, I believed that Harris would win, but that Trump would be certified. So I believe that the majority would vote for Harris, and there would be violence, maybe an insurrection, and then at the end, Trump will be certified. It was not correct, obviously, because Trump won the election. But when we see all what these organizations and Greg Palast, what all of them found out was that already beforehand, they stole the election. They made sure that they win the election, but not by the majority of the votes, but through voter suppression and also through manipulation of the results, which those organizations found out. I know it's not proven yet, but there are serious evidences for widespread manipulation. So what also Greg Palast calculated was that Kamala Harris would have won, I think, 3 million more votes if there was not this voter suppression in several swing states. He based this on several evidences. It's not just made up. And this is my conclusion. I still believe that if everything would have been really fair, if there was no voter suppression, all of this, I believe that Kamala would have won the election, even though I know Trumpism is rising. He has a lot of supporters, patriarchy, sexism, all of this is rising. But still, the majority would not have voted for him.
Okay.
That's also what you mean with it's not about the individuals, it's really about the institution.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because the test for the individuals comes in future. I think, for example, I have read at the beginning the quote of how democracies die and what happened after 9/11. The people really didn't want Bush. And after 9/11, it changed completely. They all, also the Democrats, they all were one. They were one. They were uniting. They were passing the Patriot Act, which would have never been possible without 9/11. And the people supported it because in a crisis, the people want a strong leader. It's just necessary for their security. So I believe that Trump also needs a national crisis. He needs a terror attack or a war where people really support him, because now also his approval ratings are not so good. It's not the clear majority that supports his policies. But after, when the country is in a national crisis, I think this really will change. And then all of a sudden, people who don't agree with him and everything, they will support him because they understand they need a leader, a strong leader that gives them security. So I think the test will come later now, but of course, soon.
One more question maybe, because what you're saying is, hey, democracy died, actually, has failed, and at least institutions failed to keep democracy up. And Elder Terry is saying democracy didn't die yet.
Yes.
And she's talking about democratic republic instead of democracy. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's a topic. I started to read a book by the same authors of Democracy Die. It's called The Tyranny of the Minority. And they are describing that this system of the Electoral College was not good from the beginning. It was based on this compromise between the South and what should they do with the slaves, the former slaves. How can they prevent that they are not the majority? but that the whites remain the majority. And so they created this system, voting system, which is not a direct vote, but a vote. You don't vote directly the president, but you vote the electoral college, and then they vote the president. And this is they write that this was from an era which was pre-democratic. It was the beginning of democracy, but now it's outdated. So they should have developed it further, and they should have changed it to what a democracy needs now to be a fair democracy. And the USA is the only country, the only democratic country that has this system, this electoral college system. No one else, no other country like Germany has it anymore, because it is not fair. It is not really democratic. So the Republican or the Democratic Republic, this is still important. It's still good, because it supports the minorities, that the majority does not suppress the minorities. But also countries like Germany, they are also a republic. They are not, it's the Bundesrepublik Deutschland. It also has these republic values to support minorities. So this is good, but the electoral college, I think, is not good. And this is the problem. And this makes it possible for a minority to rule over the majority.
Okay. Yeah, because that's, as she says, of course, I can't remember that precisely, but you say, so it's now a minority that chooses actually for the majority, and Elder Terry said, actually the Democratic Republic is taking care of the weak minority. But you say it's actually the strong minority that now goes over the majority.
Yes. Yeah.
Way around. Okay. Interesting thought to think about. Yeah. It's like the rich are now winning.
Yeah, I think we just see it when we see the news every day, how Elon Musk and all those tech bros, they are ruling over the minority, over the minorities, and also over the majority who did not vote for Elon Musk, for example.
There are different minorities.
Yes.
It's the
And
rich.
they are not acting like a republic supporting the minorities like LGBTQ, but they are suppressing them now. It's really a persecution.
But I think that Elder Terry says that it didn't die because there was a fair election, and that's exactly what you say. There wasn't a fair and free election.
Yes, I really cannot see how it can be a fair and free election. It contradicts to all what we learned in the past. So when they even say that they don't want everybody to vote, it's just also Trump. He said, I don't need your votes. I have plenty of votes. He said it beforehand. So how can he say it when he relies on a fair election and he relies on the majority of the votes?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Any other questions that people have? So maybe last one for me then. I'm just thinking all the time about how can you combine those messages? How can you, I mean, because the story that Elder Terry tells about how things changed in the Republican Party and how she sees that also from 2014 and then going onwards. I think that I think that the thing is that there's of course this Quintus Fabius Maximus Curtius that is placed at the Sunday law. Do you think that that is the thing that makes it impossible to combine the messages, or is there more? At least that 2024 cannot be Exeter.
I was wondering the same.
For her.
As I said, I believe it is Exeter. I don't know how regarding the name Fabius Maximus. I'm not sure how to where to place it. I'm not sure if I don't know if you know from Arjan in one of his recent studies, he said that he doesn't, or that he has questions on how Elder Terry is understanding this name, because she makes the flood running through the Bible as a biblical symbol, but Quintus, she does not run through the Bible. So she's using different methodology within that name. So I'm really not, I think we have to investigate this further. And as of now, I don't agree with that it's for sure just proving that it is placed on July 2024. Why can't it be placed on July 2025, for example? And is it really correct to understand Fabius with voting and all of this? I'm not sure about this.
Yeah. Okay.
But all of the story that she laid out with the manosphere and all of this, I think it is really good. As I would agree with, I don't know, 95% of her study. Just a few details, I think we should look again into it and see how it fits together.
Yeah, I should watch her video next studies, because I think she's trying to prove more that it's July 2024 without using Quintus as the proof for that date, but I'm not so far yet. Or I've watched several presentations, but not all yet that have been done until now. Yeah.
I've heard in the most recent presentations, Parminder did in Tahiti, he said that the seventh kingdom is the GOP. What is your view about that?
Yeah, I think it is. It's the how do you explain it? When we compare it to 1850, slavery came because of the South, not because of the North. So when equality is the sin, or back then slavery was the sin, the South brought it. So they were the Sunday law movement that brought the Sunday law, the sin. But the North compromised and accepted it, or didn't fight against it as they should have. So I think this is comparable to now with the Republicans. They were bringing up Trump and bringing up the patriarchy, sexism, all of this. But the Democrats did not prevent it. They did not fight enough to prevent it, and finally compromised. So the Democrats did a big sin because of compromising, but the issue came because of the Republican. So they brought the Sunday law.
I just can remember the quote of Ellen White, where she says the sin lies at the door of the churches. And I'm just now wondering, does she point at the north or the south?
Hmm.
The sin of slavery lies at the door of the churches. Do you remember that quote?
I only remember that she is judging the churches for also compromising. I think they should have fight against it, but didn't. It's like in World War II when the churches were on the side of the Nazi party and not doing enough to fight against it. But I don't remember the exact quote.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to remind that my study is really about the line of the institution. So I don't know exactly what the national Sunday law is. It could be different. I'm not sure if it's the same or if it's different. It's at least it is on a different line. It's on the line of the 144,000, and it's the national Sunday law. It's a beginning at Boston, where the test then afterwards at the loud cry begins. And what I was talking about was the close of probation waymark of the institution. It's in the same year, but I'm not sure if it's exactly the same. I mean, it's still all about equality, all of this. But if the national Sunday law is also January 6 and 20, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because this is then for the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I will show the line again from the beginning. So I was talking about this waymark, the closed door, shipwreck, judgment, close of probation. And here is the national Sunday law waymark on this line. So it's another layer.
You say it could be a different event,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
like okay. Good. Any more questions?